Quickly, before we get into the actual video, the reason why I'm going to be reading off a script right now is because I feel sick and my mind's not like completely sharp. I normally just free associate, but I need to organize my thoughts and I wanted to get a video out today in case I'm too sick to make one tomorrow. Anyways, I think jiu-jitsu is one of the best ways to find happiness in life. It has one of the longest competitive windows of any sport, allowing you to stay active and continue competing for decades. Take Helio Gracie, for example, one of the founders of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He continued rolling well into his 80s because BJJ teaches you how to defeat a much larger opponent using technique and leverage. Helio was known for his philosophy that skill could overcome strength and athleticism. Even as he aged, he remained incredibly difficult to submit. While he may not have always won against younger, stronger opponents, many accounts suggest that he was never tapped in live rolling. His approach to jiu-jitsu focused on defense and survival, making him exceptionally hard to submit. So, unlike other sports, jiu-jitsu does not require years of practice before you start winning. You don't have to show up and constantly lose for months before seeing progress. Every time a new person joins the gym, which happens regularly, especially in large gyms, you'll have a fresh training partner to test your skills against. From there, you can practice surviving against the higher belts and beat the newer members as they join. Once you get your first mission, you'll never see the world again. You realize that in most places you go, you're one of the best fighters in the room. It's crazy how few people actually train in fighting, and if you decide to dedicate a month or two, you'll be able to win most fights against opponents of similar size. It will take a couple of years before you can confidently take down someone who outweighs you by 50 to 100 pounds, but the progress is undeniable. That said, don't be reckless and start picking fights on the street. You'll never know who might have a knife or a gun or backup nearby. Seriously. I have a friend who he is fighting and dude 190 deadlift 700, like literally lives in the gym. He's a bouncer. He got into a street fight with the dude pulled out a knife. He was showing me the scars in the locker room. I'm just like, you dumbass. He's like, yeah, you're actually the first person to tell me that. I'm like, yeah, man, like you don't fight someone with a knife, especially when you don't have to. It was just some disagreement he got into. It's like, when there's a knife fight, no one really wins. Like, anyways, knowing how to handle yourself in a fight is a huge confidence booster. As Jordan Peterson explains, the word no ultimately means stop or I'm going to make you. Most people are too sheltered to grasp this. They think no is a magic word that holds power over others. But in reality, if the situation escalates, you might have to back up your words with actions. For a woman, jiu-jitsu is a valuable tool for self-defense, but I would not rely on it solely as the solution. There is a significant skill gap required to successfully defend yourself against a much larger attacker. That's why there's an old saying, God made man, but Smith & Wesson made man equal. Regardless, after a tough jiu-jitsu session, you'll leave the mat feeling renewed. No matter what challenges life throws at you, you'll walk away thinking, you know what, I'm pretty damn good at fighting. And that realization alone can bring happiness. The purpose behind training. Jiu-jitsu keeps you in shape because it gives you a reason to work out. Many people struggle to stay consistent in the gym because they don't have a reason why. For me, I hate losing. If I start losing jiu-jitsu, I ask myself, am I getting enough sleep? Am I being a dumbass and smoking? Which I quit years ago, but like, I don't know. Only picked it up once and then quit again. Is my diet bad? Am I neglecting lifting, stretching, meditation? Can I fix this? Am I overtraining? Injury management for longevity. One of the keys to longevity in jiu-jitsu is realizing when you're injured. The mistake most people make is trying to push through injuries, which only leads to further damage. The correct approach is stop aggravating the injury immediately, rest it, move it gently through its full range of motion until it fully heals. Gradually return to training once you're pain-free. If you follow this, you can train well into your 60s, 70s, and 80s. Other sports like soccer, football, basketball don't allow you to compensate for declining athleticism with technique, but jiu-jitsu is different. It's designed for skill to triumph over brute strength. To minimize injuries, tap early and often. Avoid going for risky highlight reel moves like the big throws anything that you would post on Instagram, avoid those, because if you mess them up, that's how I broke my sternum last year. Yeah, I tried to go for a giant throw. The person's leg, like, let's say this is the ground, his knee kind of like triangled up like that, and my whole sternum just landed right on the peak of his knee, and it's horrible. Anyways, the mental benefits, like, but if you don't do stupid stuff like try to throw someone who has 6 inches on you and 50 pounds, this doesn't happen. Besides the physical benefits of jiu-jitsu, it's a mental reset. I can have a terrible week, bad sleep, frustrating work situation, or just feel off. Once I step on the mat, I tap into a reserve I've built for myself. When I start winning, I feel better, but it's not an inflated sense of confidence. It's a reality-based confidence. Jiu-jitsu removes false negative emotions that remind me of what I'm capable of. It's a weekly reality check that reinforces the values of dedication and discipline. Jiu-jitsu is like a bank of confidence, built through years of hard work. Whenever life gets tough, you can make a withdrawal from it. Remind yourself of just how resilient you are. That goes for any sports. I just really like the fact that you can do this with jiu-jitsu. But anything that you can be really good at, whenever you feel down, you can just do that activity, and it's a reserve of confidence that you built yourself. I mean, hell, if you don't want to do your free time, just pick a sport, pick a talent, and go for it. Even silly ones like Rubik's Cubing, you'll still feel good about yourself. Like, once you do it, and you're like, damn, I'm really good at this. With that said, I like Rubik's Cubing a little bit. I can solve it in under 60 seconds. So jiu-jitsu is like a bank of confidence built through hard work. Whenever life gets tough, you can withdraw. And that feeling when your movement starts flowing effortlessly, when technique happens instinctively without conscious thought, that's the zone. That's where mastery lives. That's a divine experience. Fighting becomes the best meditation you've ever had. My advice for beginners is, it's very little you actually have to focus on. First is get a dominant position, isolate a limb, make it bend how it's not supposed to bend. If you don't have a dominant position, then you don't try to isolate a limb. If you don't have a limb isolated, you don't try to make it bend how it's not supposed to bend. And you just kind of go A, B, C. If you get rolled, or if you're on bottom and you have to defend, you create space by bridging and shrimping, which you'll learn how to do, and then you fill that space with your elbows and your knees, which are called wedges, and then you just repeat that process until you're basically standing apart from him, which is the ultimate creating of space. You follow this process, you'll naturally begin to understand most techniques in jiu-jitsu. So there is a danger of over-relying on jiu-jitsu, and I've seen this time and time again, and it's the old meme of, it's just like jiu-jitsu doctor is a roll of athletic tape and a giant tub of what's it called? Can't believe I'm drawing. It's like the icy hot stuff, but it smells like peppermint. That's like a Chinese logo on it. Can't believe I'm drawing a blank here. But yeah, you just rub it on your muscles when it hurts. Tiger Balm, that's it. Keep calm and Tiger Balm. That's the meme. The dangers of relying on jiu-jitsu. So some people tie their entire self-worth to jiu-jitsu, which can be dangerous. If you train through injuries or feel lost when you can't train, it can lead to identity crisis. If injuries can turn into a crisis, injury can turn into a crisis if your self-image depends solely on being a grappler. You might ignore your body's warnings, train through pain, the risks of long-term damage, and risk long-term damage. Worse, if you can't train for a while, you might feel completely lost. Like, that's how good jiu-jitsu is that people often train through it because it's so enjoyable to do. This happened to me when I was wrestling during my senior year of college. I still had a few months left in school, but without wrestling, I felt trapped. My time suddenly filled with only studying and homework, and something was missing. But that doesn't mean I'd ever quit jiu-jitsu. If there's a magic pill that gave you all the benefits of BJJ, would you refuse to take it just because you might not always have access to it? No. You'd make sure not to rely on it as a single point of failure. You probably heard about the pillars of health. Notice that word, pillars, plural. Don't be foolish like I was and rely on one thing to define you. Diversify your identity. You're more than just a grappler. Develop skills, relationships, and other passions. So the correct mindset for longevity, one of the biggest dangers of over-reliance on jiu-jitsu is the temptation to train through injuries. Ignoring injuries doesn't make you tougher. It makes you weaker in the long run. The fastest way to regress in jiu-jitsu is to be forced off the mat for months because you refuse to rest for a couple weeks. Here's the best mindset for longevity. Pain is not progress. Soreness is fine. Sharp or lingering pain is a warning sign. Stop aggravating the injury immediately. Don't push yourself through it. Adjust your training. Then move it, but don't stress it. Healing doesn't mean doing nothing. Move the injured area through the full range of motion gently. Rehab with intent. Use physical therapy, mobile work, and properly recover. If you adopt this mindset, you can literally do jiu-jitsu for years and get all the positive benefits that come with it. It's literally, I think, the best, at least my best thing I do for just being happy all the time is I go jiu-jitsu often. I also go hunting and walking and hanging out with people, so it's not my sole identity anymore, but you never feel as good as you feel after you just got through a practice and you beat a bunch of people in fighting. Because it's actually real. Like, if someone's like, I'm the best Rubik's Cube solver, you're like, so what, man? Like, what does that mean for you? Like, that's cool. If someone's like, I'm the best fighter, you're like, oh shit, this person could beat me up. That's what it is. It's like an actual practical thing. Like being the best hunter, a really good hunter, that's an actual practical skill. There's some skills that I'm like, but this is a good actual practical skill that will be great for life. So give it a try.